that'll be nice and slow. Yep. So I'll give each one of those with my head. Can we do it right there, the last four measures at the tutti?
Those fermatas? In bar 48? In bar 48, no, the last note in everything has a fermata?
Okay. No.
So
I did, and I shouldn't.
Okay, I just want to mark it if that's how we prefer to do it.
No.
Okay.
Let me do. Can we take it from measure 45, please?
Yes, we may.
So you all did a really good job of watching. So that's just a little lift. So. Okay, so right there, my rough. 3, 4, 1. Softer on that, but that was good. Does that work?
Sure, yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
going to stay seated on this one. That's with your little plus signs that are now on a couple of places. You can stay seated.
Is that a new thing here?
Let me make a quick adjustment. All that head bobbing.
You need a bobby pin.
It's my style.
Implant.
Where do you want to start?
We can just start low, Mark.
Where?
17.
Oh, 17, okay.
Lovely.
Who's doing Ashamnu tonight?
I am.
Okay, you want to move that over for closer to you, but we aren't going to run it unless you need it? Okay. Okay, we don't need that Yasulam. That. Can we do, do we need to do Albanu? Maltenu?
Avinu Malkeinu?
Avinu? I have them written out on the top, and then I don't know.
Yeah, there is.
No, the plus means seated, although that's not for this. No, I don't need it.
That's forever.
And you all feel good?
Staying seated forever.
No, just where there are the plus signs. So in this service, there's only two things.
Okay.
So the one we just did, and then Kol Nidre, which is just a solo that has nothing to do with you.
Great.
Okay? See, this is good. Just because we haven't done it in a while, just this Hashivenu, because it can be so beautiful. So it's C-120, the last thing in the service. Oh, did everybody add the VMR right before this?
Yeah. Yes.
Vanette MR right before the Hashivenu. Yes. Okay?
No, we cut my own house. Yeah. And the new street. Yeah.
Okay? We just got about 13 minutes left. Let's keep going. Hashivenu.
Wait, could you do the, I think we were unclear about,
So,
so we get the,
okay. It's not sticking today. Normally it just sticks.
Louis form you don't really need.
You know, some,
Put some double stick tape on it.
I know what it is. I shaved my head this morning. I don't normally shave my head right before I come, so there's nothing there to grip. Normally it's like Velcro with my little hair.
oh, it's still lubricated.
Okay?
I've been accused of having nothing up there anyway. It's been 10
Yeah,
years.
they have the clips over there, and I have nothing to clip it to.
All right.
Yeah, that
Hashivenu.
goes.
You just get a big head nod. So. Beautiful. We don't need to break that. That's just two measures. So just one big breath, okay? Right there at 6. And. Good. All right. Can you please pull out your Yom Kippur books?
It's all young.
the D?
Yes. You should have all kinds of new people.
Yeah, Mitch is doing it solo.
Oh, okay. And there he is.
Hello, Mitch.
Are you joining the choir? Get my green cousin.
You want to come and cook it tonight or tomorrow morning in rehearsal? What? Rather wait till tomorrow?
Yeah, it'll feel different, so let's do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm missing one.
Well, whatever you want. If you want to do it now, we can do it now.
No, it's fine. Can we go to D48 and 49, the Kedusha?
It just said my name, and so I just wanted to make sure that that was actually still you.
All right, Kedusha. Oh.
Hallelujah, hasn't changed.
Rabbi, have you met Armin?
Yes. You guys on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Some of you weren't here that day, but the cool kids were here. Bravo.
Yes.
Continue on.
Okay, let's go on to D53, the priestly blessing. Break there. Okay. Good. Okay, real quick. Those two, the piece just before we stop and just after where we stop, can you watch for a cutoff so that we get that together? And then you don't, it can break to get in. So. That
Okay.
makes sense?
Sure.
So you don't have to
want
rush.
any, you don't want any dovetailing there. You want it.
Right, I think so. Because what I heard was 3 different C's.
Yeah, so on measure 30, I mean, we were all, it's written piano, and we were
Yes.
doing a healthy quartet.
It was too loud there.
Was it?
If it's too loud tomorrow, we just have too much
It was
bandwidth.
everything.
Since we're stopped,
Uh-huh.
where did you want to breathe there?
Well, I think normally I don't breathe, but I don't know, like slower than normal, or I don't take a big enough breath, but usually I don't take a breath.
Okay.
So that, after that,
If we go back, can we
Sure.
start with that?
Sorry, that was my alarm to go, I need to wrap things up.
This is a nice addition.
Well, it was my phone, but it's my alarm.
So in bar, so in measure 45, are we gonna add a little time for that cutoff, or are we just going to, because we were not together. I was thinking. We kind of fell apart there.
Yeah, it's got, right.
So, Jory, so can we do 45, because we all fell apart there a bit when we added that sort of space that we hadn't been adding before. So maybe I can just be sure to cut off with them, as opposed to,
In fact, choir, won't be a break, please remain silent for a couple minutes while I work this out with the three half. So, let's just take it from the quartet.
Jason, how's the balance? Good, okay, good, okay.
So what I want to do is, your quarter note is an eighth note. Your quarter note there.
what quarter note?
Oh, on the piece. So, and that's where we take the break, so it's 2.5 beats.
That makes sense. So we add an eighth rest on the and of 3,
Right.
and put the C there, and put the S there. Okay.
Hi there.
All right.
So we'll go over that tomorrow.
Okay. Cool. You were smart. Oh, I put on my jeans jacket in my car to make sure I didn't spill anything on it. I had a whole day of work and I thought, there's no way I'm gonna make it. So I'm gonna go change really quick. Makes sense. Hi, that's awesome. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I'm delicious too.
Good, they were both finished.
Yes, they were both very tasty.
If you had any, every journey in the page.
He's retiring after this season. Oh, actually, he's retiring before the season is over.
Retiring next spring.
Goodness, all right. Have you guys
We haven't discussed it. He hasn't discussed it.
He's just made the announcement. Have you known for a year?
We've known since this semester started.
Oh, okay.
But it's become official. He's working in their
I was gonna say, I always seem to have only heard his name as the director, so.
He's been the case for as long as he's been.
Okay. But the group has existed in some form.
Yes, there was a community chorus before. Yeah, no, I'm glad it was needed.
Now, once I found out,
School choruses always had professional somehow he talked the board into putting up the money.
Well, there's also accountability at College of Ages.
you don't mind, Steve.
Yeah.
To sort of being on the music staff gives you a little bit of enhancement.
A little bit, but the administrators are not being easy. My impression is that it's always been a struggle.
Sound test, 1, 2.
I wonder if they kind of have that, why isn't it a school thing?
Because we have played with the school in the 21, 22 years that I've been there. We've only played
read. Well, was it last week? I just only, I think I've been sort of buried in music
Yes.
stuff for so much that I don't even know what's going on in the rest of the world just because I'm like, work and rehearsal. Yes. Thank you. I'm in Macbeth and graduating. Yeah. Nice year. Chance to be on stage. I mean, really exciting. It's been a long time since I've been on a stage and just being there and doing that. And it's just, yeah, I missed it. So I'm happy to be sort of excited. I'm not very, very dramatic.
Yes.
Although some of Verdi's music makes you sort of want to, even though it's very serious and dark.
He can do that.
Yes, he can. I'm like, it's a very danceable beat. Makes me think of American Bandstand.
My favorites are the Countdown of Nidre.
Oh, yes. Yes. I have to admit, I'm a fan of Aida. And Traviata, actually.
I think it's the most
Yes, yes.
even when it's tragic.
And he's very good at ending things with an old. It's kind of like, and everyone's dead. The end. I'm like, okay, now listen, that was effective.
This is the way it works.
This is the way it goes, like Traviata, and she dies. But I do love it.
My favorite scene. People go to good people black and white. And he didn't know it was in black and white.
Oh, he did?
You just watch it. You didn't realize there was no color.
Yeah, it's just,
It was just so well done.
I was looking at the lyric website and I didn't realize how much of the first two seasons Jack Movie performed here at Lyric.
Yeah, he was
As a regular, it's awesome. It's awesome. And Lucy Burley, I love Lucy Burley. He's probably one of my favorite actors of all time.
Ronnie stood up twice.
Yeah, that was, he
And
had
we had bought tickets for both
Oh, that's not good. And that feels very personal.
Yes. He crossed me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so whoever was the cover, right? Which is not what you paid for.
Right. Whoever said his role was good,
But it wasn't.
but it wasn't that well. And I felt cheated. I felt he stole it.
Actually, I kind of remember like the last time, it was a huge thing. Everyone was in that cover. You know. Wasn't he just yeah,
He's, after the second time, he was banned from Chicago.
Pavarotti said he was sick or whatever. She freaked out. She had other issues. She was, when I was at Indiana University, we were doing a concert with Argentina, she was like an hour and 8 songs. I just kind of scrolled it.
you don't feel like sometimes, but then at other times I do. That's great. Ready as a bike. I wish I felt that way.
Shana Tova. Before we begin, I'm going to please remind everyone to keep your mask on over your nose and mouth so all of us may stay safe in the sanctuary this evening. I want to thank all of you for joining us, you who are here and on the stream. Rabbi Weiner and I have the honor of leading the congregation in prayer. And on behalf of everyone here at Congregation Etz Chaim, I want to express thanks to all who made these services possible. To our wonderful office staff, especially our terrific, outgoing interim executive director, Carol Meyer. We could not have had these high holidays without all of her organization. She is truly a gift to all of us. And also a heartfelt thank you to the hard work of Michelle Miller, Marla Friedman, Adrian Mintz, and Marlon Tharp for paying so much attention to all the details and for your dedicated hearts and wonderful work during this arduous past year. Thank you to our new choir director, Jason Hill, and our absolutely amazing choir, and to Janice Wittrig for playing the beautiful Kol Nidre music. Thank you to our song leader, Cindy Michalasi, to all of our music volunteers who bring so much to our community, to our Baal Tekiah, Mitch Williams, to Rachel and David Wood for organizing the captioning and the interpreter. And thank you to Colleen Bajalis for being our interpreter this evening. Welcome to our incoming Executive Director, Aaron Robin. A heartfelt thank you to Ken and Marcy Siegel and the entire Ritual and Religious Committee for their support, to our President, Jacob Cinnamon Murphy, to the Executive Committee and the Board of Directors for their leadership, their guidance, and partnership, and to all of you who volunteer here at the congregation or who give of yourselves financially to make sure our lights stay on. We appreciate all you do and you who show up to support the Jewish community and make sure that there is a spiritual home for all who are here together in person and virtually. Without you, without your presence, without your support, we could not be here at this holy and spiritual time in our congregational history. Thank you to all who are a part of this important endeavor, coming together as a community to pray Kol Nidre, Shana Tova. We begin with the singing of Ve'al Kulam. It is my pleasure to invite to the Bima to sanctify our Yom Tov candles, which can be found in our Machzor, in our prayer book, beginning in the middle of page 9, the Tetiner family. Amen. Yasher koach. In a moment, we are going to open our ark and invite our past presidents to come to the Bima and recite Kol Nidre, which is a legal formula developed by the rabbis which annuls only those vows which are made between humans and God. It expresses our fear that even our best intention for the new year might not be fulfilled. And at the same time, it expresses that we regret that we didn't get to accomplish all that we tried to in the past year. It mentions 7 types of promises and uses 7 types of verbs because 7 is the number of completion, the spiritual number. And Kol Nidre is the time and place where Jews express their solidarity with other Jews and reaffirm their membership with the community of Israel. So I invite to the Bima at this time to recite Kol Nidre, our Baal Tekiah, and also new Kol Nidre reciter, Mitch Williams. I also invite our past presidents to come to the Bima while we rise for Or Zarua. It is my pleasure to invite to the Bima as well Janice Wittrig to begin Kol Nidre.
kol nidre ve'esarei ushavuei v'acharamei ve'koramei ve'kinusei ve'kinusei ve'kinuyei ushvui v'acharamei ve'konamei ve'kinuyei ushvui v'acharamei ve'konamei ve'kinusei ve'kinuyei D'intarna orai sabana ute akarimna utasarna al-nafshatana miyom kippurim ad yom kippurim habaleinu le'tova b'kol hon ikaratna behon kol hon yehon sharan yehon sharan yehon sharan shvikin veteilin votalin la shiririn vela kayamin nidrana la nidre ve'esarana la esare ushvatana la Shavuot.
All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now in keeping with your boundless love. V'shem ne'emar vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarechecha. And God responded, I forgive as you have asked, as we continue with Vayomer. We continue on page 22. We remain standing for Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue on page 24. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmeratehem barakia kirtsono, borei yom v'layla, Golel or mipnei choshech, vechoshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi laila, uma'avdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. On page 28, we continue now with the Shema. Please rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated as we continue now chanting the Ve'ahavta on pages 30 and 32. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi metzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'aderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Continue now on page 38. Truth and faith, these are fundamental to our existence. God alone is their source, and we are Israel, a people of God. Our sovereign saves us from tyranny, redeems us from its violence through countless wonders.
from its brutality through great feats beyond measure. We are Israel, a people of God, the giver of life who would not let our feet give way, the maker of miracles for us against Pharaoh, of signs and portents in the land of Egypt, the one who brought out our people from Israel from its midst to enduring freedom. We continue at the top of page 40. Witness to this heroic might, the people thanked and praised God by name, freely accepting the rain of heaven. Then Moses and Miriam and all Israel sang to you this song of utter joy, as we continue now with the words of Mi Chamocha.
We continue on page 43. The peace of wild things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought or grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue with our Congregational Tafila, which can be found on page 46. Please rise in either body or spirit. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Bi'ahava, Zochreinu L'chaim, Melech Hafetz B'chaim, Melech Hafetz B'chaim, V'kotvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, L'mancha Elohim chaim, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Zrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye metim ata rav lehoshia, morid hatal. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechaye metim berachamim rabim. Somech noflim virofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayim emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, michamocha el harachamim, zocher yitzura, lechaim berachamim, berachamim, v'ne'eman atal hachayot metim, baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hametim. Please be seated. We continue on page 54. How do we sense God's holiness? Through honor. And so in your holiness, give your people the gift of honor. Bless with praise those who praise you. Bless with hope those who seek you. Give your believers a basis for faith, true happiness in the land of Israel, true joy in Jerusalem. May the sparks of David, your servants, soon grow bright enough for us to see, a beam of light in the darkness, a promise of perfection.
We continue on page 61. Today, the Jewish mission is not diminished. In a world that still cries out for healing, where suffering and narrowness are endemic, to be chosen means to have a special calling to teach that all human beings are children of God, created in God's image, and must be treated as sacred. That Judaism is a small nation is no bar to this task. Many of the nations that have changed the world have been small. The Athens of Socrates and Plato, the England of Queen Elizabeth and Shakespeare, the America of Washington and Jefferson. No nation, great or small, has touched humanity more deeply than the tiny nation of Isaiah and Jeremiah. Chosenness is not a privilege to boast of, but a task to be undertaken. It is to keep constantly in mind the words of the prophet Micah. It has been told you, O mortal, what is good and what the eternal requires of you. Only this, do justly and love mercy and walk humbly with your God. We continue now on page 67. Out of the depths I call you. Hear me in this darkness as I cry for mercy. I long for your word. I wait for your forgiveness. You offer love. You free me from my sins. I yearn for your light, more eager than watchers for the morning. Help me to know your peace. We continue now with the singing of Ne'emar at the bottom of page 66. Continue now with the singing of Shalom Rav on page 78, followed by a few moments of silent meditation and reflection.
We come now to Vidui, our confessional section, which can be found in our Machzor on page 82. The Vidui section is the group of confessional prayers which we find in our Yom Kippur and Slichot services. This includes Ashamnu. Remember that this prayer is meant to imply our vulnerability, our rawness, and our emotional pain in the act of confession. This is also a central mitzvah that must be performed. The rabbinic requirement to confess is based upon the biblical passage that describes the confession of the high priest in the Holy of Holies. Following the destruction of the temples, greater emphasis was placed on synagogue ritual and individual prayer, and it fell upon each person to make communal confession on Yom Kippur. And so we continue with Tavo Lefanecha. Will the congregation please rise?
Thank you.
Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. We read the bottom of page 82 together. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violently slander. We devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. And we continue with Ashamnu. Please be seated. We continue on the bottom of page 84. You know the secrets of the universe and the secrets of the human heart. You know and understand us, for you examine our inner lives. Nothing is concealed from you, nothing is hidden from your sight. Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, we pray that this be your will. Forgive all our wrongs. Pardon us for every act of injustice. Help us atone for all our mortal failures. We continue on page 86. For all these sins, our God, we ask forgiveness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezadon uvishgaga ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezibor peh. We read responsibly in the English. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your word through the words of our mouth, the ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused you in your world through careless speech, the ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor, the ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers, the ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor, the ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business, For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and the harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused your world through consumption. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. The ways and harm we have caused in your world through arrogance. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. The ways we have wronged you with slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. We continue with Ve'al Kulam.
We continue now on page 100. God of forgiveness, we come before you in need of compassion. At Sinai, you spoke words that guide our lives to this day, but our ancestors lost faith in you, lost hope in their Redeemer. With one voice they had promised, we will do and obey, and yet stiff-necked they broke their word, adoring an idol of gold. How wondrous your compassion in the face of their rebellion, your forgiveness in that moment of human weakness and doubt. We too have broken promises to you. We too worship the work of our own hands. We too make of gold a god, and we too forsake your word. At Sinai, you revealed 13 attributes of mercy. These aspects of your nature, your very essence, we now recall. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet. Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1,000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon. We now continue with the singing of Kianu Amecha on page 106. We continue on page 111. Answer us, you who answered our mother Sarah in her old age, you who answered our father Abraham on Mount Moriah, you who answered their son Isaac when bound up upon the altar, you who answered Rebekah when she cried, "Why do I exist?" You who answered Jacob at Bethel, Israel shall be your name. You who answered Leah in her sadness, you who answered Rachel in her pain, you who answered Joseph in the prison house, you who answered the midwives Shiphrah and Puah at the birthing stones, you who answered Yocheved's courage at the bank of the Nile, you who answered our fathers and mothers at the Sea of Reeds, you who answered Moses at Sinai, I bore you on eagle's wings. You who answered the daughters of Zelophehad, who stood up for their rights before Moses and God. You who answered Elijah with a still, small voice in the wilderness. You who answered the righteous ones before us, men and women of integrity and compassion, answer us. We now continue with Avinu Malkeinu on pages 114 and 115. Please rise. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Ulalenu V'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families. Avinu Malkeinu Kale Dever Ve'cherev Ve'ra'av Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness. Avinu Malkeinu Kale Cold Sore Umastin Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'Sefer Chayim Tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu Mal'e Yadenu Mibir Chotecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu Harem Keren Mishichecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu Na'al Teshivenu Rekam Milfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu Kabel Barachamim Uvratzon Et Tfilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Imanu Lema'an Shmecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Lemancha Im Lo Lema'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu Ein Lanu Melach Ela Ata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu P'tach Sha'arei Shemayim Litfilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, gates of heaven be open to our prayer. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu Hus V'rachem Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, lead us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu V'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed V'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Please be seated. Last year, we had 3 synagogues merged together. We weren't able to meet in person, and so we made it possible for 3 synagogues to be together virtually. And Rabbi Stephen Bob, our emeritus rabbi, was serving Temple B'nai Abraham last year, and I invited him to give the sermon on Kol Nidre. And since no good deed goes unpunished, and he did such an excellent job, we invited him back to give the Kol Nidre sermon as our very esteemed colleague and friend and Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Exile, Rabbi Stephen Bob.
I'm glad I passed the audition. I first stood before you 40 years ago. You haven't changed. Neither have I. It will come as no surprise to anybody who knows me that in seeking an image from the Bible to frame our current situation, I was drawn once again to the book of Jonah. I know one song, but it's a good one. The book of Jonah is familiar, very familiar to most of us. As the story begins, God calls Jonah to go to Nineveh, but Jonah runs away. He goes to Yaffo, and from the port he boards a ship to take him to Tarshish. God casts a mighty wind upon the seas, and such a tempest blows that the ship was in danger of breaking up. The sailors learn the only way they can save themselves from the storm is to throw Jonah overboard. So the sailors throw Jonah off the ship, flying through the air, and before he hit the water, Jonah must have been thinking, this is the end of my life. I'm going to drown in the sea. But Jonah does not die. He finds himself alive in the belly of the big fish. At some point, he begins to understand that the big fish is not part of his punishment, but rather part of his salvation. With this new perspective, Jonah calls to God in prayer from the belly of the big fish. God responds and directs the fish to deposit Jonah on dry land. Now, we can imagine that after 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, these days have taken a toll on Jonah. Without a seatbelt or sea bands, he is battered and bruised, disoriented and confused. After 3 days in the belly of the fish, Jonah must have been an awful mess, both physically and emotionally. During the days in the belly of the big fish, his world had gotten very small. As he prepared to emerge from the belly of the big fish and finally get back on dry land, Jonah had to decide, what was he going to do next? Will he continue to flee from God, or will he chart a new course? Will he continue to be the person he was before the big storm, or will he change? We haven't been in the belly of a big fish, but it feels sort of like it. As we continue to face the twists and turns of the pandemic, we are like Jonah preparing to emerge from the big fish. We are battered and bruised, disoriented and confused. We do not know exactly when we will be fully free. We do not know exactly where we'll land. But we're getting close. Close enough to think about our new lives. We too are emerging from a small world. Like Jonah, we are emerging disoriented and confused. Jonah had to choose who he wanted to be, and we get to choose who we want to be. In recent months, we've been returning from exile. We have been in exile, physical exile, from all the old familiar places. We have been in physical exile from our family and our friends. Our path of return has not been a straight line. It has included ups and downs. This summer, I was able to return to Asrui. After being closed in 2020, our beloved summer camp reopened. We added a new activity to the normal menu of swimming, boating, and horseback riding. What activity did we add? COVID testing. I was really good at COVID testing. We have to rebuild our lives. Some people ask, when are we going back to normal? In truth, we're not going back to the old normal. We're going forward to a new normal. When Jonah emerged from the belly of the big fish, he did not go back to his old life. He went forward. Jonah did not continue to run away from God. God gave Jonah another chance to be a prophet, and Jonah took it. Jonah finally understood that his path in the world led to Nineveh. Jonah understood his purpose and his destiny. Jonah understood that serving as God's prophet would make his life meaningful. Recently, I heard Rabbi Shmuel Golden explain that the key post-pandemic question is, what will fill our lives with more meaning? On this Yom Kippur, as we gradually emerge from the pandemic, step by step, inch by inch, I think this is exactly the question for us as individuals and for us as a community. What will fill my life with more meaning, and what will fill our collective lives with more meaning? To help us respond to this question, I want to introduce you to a rabbi named Leo Beck. You may have heard of him. There's a Leo Beck High School in Haifa, a Leo Beck College in London, a Leo Beck Synagogue in Los Angeles. My teacher, Professor Michael Meyer, recently published a new book about Rabbi Leo Beck. I think that Rabbi Beck's example and ideas can help us shape our own lives. Rabbi Beck led the Berlin Jewish community in the 1930s and the 1940s. As a leader, Rabbi Beck had to confront the completely unexpected. Nothing in his life prepared him for the rise of the Nazis to power. In the years before World War II began, Rabbi Beck helped Jews escape from Germany. He sent scholars to America, including Rabbi Leo Lichtenberg, the father of our friend Gerson Lichtenberg. He helped the Kindred transport send German Jewish children to England. But Rabbi Beck stayed on in Germany to lead the community. He had opportunities to save himself, but he saw himself as the captain of the ship. He would not leave Berlin until all the Jews were saved. In 1943, he was deported to Theresienstadt, and he led the Jewish prisoners until they were liberated in 1945. Throughout his life, Rabbi Beck urged the Jews to embrace their Messianic obligation. I love the phrase. As Jews, we have a Messianic obligation. Even in the most dire of situations, he urged the Jews to maintain a vision of the future. He taught that as Jews, we have a responsibility to improve the world, to heal the world. We can apply Rabbi Beck's approach to our own situation. As we emerge from the pandemic, we need to maintain a vision of the future. We need to embrace our Messianic obligation. In our time, we cannot allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by the challenges. We can bring meaning to our lives by participating in projects to change the world. One of my favorite old Israeli folk songs is Eric Einstein's Ani v'ata nishaneh et ha'olam. Arik wrote, Ani v'ata nishaneh et ha'olam, ani v'ata az yuvo kvar kulam. You and I will change the world. We will begin, then everyone else will follow us. We're not passengers on the earth. We can steer the planet. If not the entire globe, then our little part of it right here in our community. I'm finding meaning, new meaning, by participating in the efforts of DuPage United. DuPage United is a group of many local congregations, synagogues, churches, and mosques, working together for the common good. We address issues that arise from our conversations. The Torah tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves. We cannot love our neighbors if we do not know our neighbors. Working together on projects has provided me with the opportunity to get to know my neighbors. In recent months, I've been part of the DuPage United team working to build affordable, accessible, supportive housing in DuPage County. Over the years, I have met many people who had a hard time finding their place in the world. These individuals would greatly benefit from supportive housing. Their lives would be much more stable if they lived in a building with a social worker on site to guide them. We all know people who need accessible housing. We all know people who need affordable housing. DuPage United hopes to create affordable, accessible, supportive housing in each of the 6 districts of our county. We have already made significant progress on creating such a facility in Glen Ellen by including a broad range of community leaders in the process. We are moving forward by working closely with a broad team of local allies, people we have met in recent months. Will affordable, accessible, supportive housing projects change the world? It will for the people who live in our units. And it already has for those of us working on the project. Come and join us, or map your own project to change the world. We are like Jonah, preparing to emerge from the big fish, battered and bruised, disoriented and confused. But we will not give in to confusion. We will not give in to despair. We will emerge with a sense of vision. We emerge embracing our messianic obligation to heal the world. Ani v'ata nishaneh et ha'olam. You and I we can change the world.
Good Yontif. My name is Joel Spenadel, and I am not here to give a second sermon. Rabbi Bob would be a tough act to follow. I am here for a few very brief but important announcements. I better do this. Sukkot services on Monday night are on Monday night. We have a Sukkot diaper and formula drive. So please bring diaper and formula with you on Monday, September 20th. The service is at 6:30 p.m. On October 3rd at 1 p.m., join the congregation while we have a community conversation about creating full and fulfilling lives for Jewish adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I will be there. Also, please bring back the bags with the food in it for our food drive tomorrow morning, and thanks to the SYG for coordinating that. Lastly, I just want to give a personal Yashir Koach and Toda Rabbah to our rabbis, to Mitch Williams, and to Jason and the choir for an inspiring Kol Nidre service tonight, and to all of you, Shana Tova.
We continue in our prayer book on page 116 as we rise for Aleinu and open the ark. Please be seated. And so, Adonai, our God, we look to you, hoping soon to behold the splendor of your power revealed, a world free of idolatry and false gods, a world growing more perfect through divine governance, a world in which all human beings will make known your name, while those who do evil turn toward you. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo At this time in our worship service, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth and whose yahrzeit we commemorate. We remember with tremendous love Denise Berman, wife of Steve Berman, Eddie Braverman, grandmother of Cynthia Swanson, Gad Jacobson, father of Beryl Jacobson, Ronald Levine, father of Joseph Levine, Bernard Leviton, father of Wendy Peck and Deborah Cox, Lillian Stone, Jean Copeland, wife of Alfred Copeland, mother of Caroline Palmer. We are in the period of Shloshim, so we mourn the recent passing of Catherine M. Notaris, mother and mother-in-law of Mark Notaris and Leah Dicker Notaris, grandmother of Kara and Jesse Notaris. Ann Goldstein, friend of Karen Friedman, Susan Padilla, dear friend of Lauren Triffler, and Dorothy Berg, aunt of Laura Talbot. We continue on page 122 with Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, as we rise as one congregation. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaye chon uv'yomei chon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach leolam ulmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu, le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Please be seated. Our closing song this evening can be found on page 127. We continue with Hashivenu. As we struggle to overcome our flaws, let us find forgiveness and peace, so we may journey from darkness and confusion to clarity and to light. And so may we all learn not to fear. Shana Tova.